All right, so we're picking up. We are picking up our conversation where we left it off. We're talking about analyzing your audience. Whenever you have to make a speech, you realize that it's not just about you. You're not just the speaker with a message. There's an audience. There's somebody there on the receiving end. So um, basically, the advice that the textbook gives us is a really good one. They talk about audience orientation. So if you know how to orient yourself towards the audience, you're most likely to have an effective speech. Okay. And you have to understand your audience to a degree. You have to understand their point of view, their level of knowledge, or their ability to track with you, basically, wherever you're taking them. You have to know where they are and where do you want to take them. So sometimes we don't have the luxury of that. We don't always know where our audience is, or our audience can be all over the place. In that case, you have to adjust and adapt to the majority. Always go for the majority. So if majority of your audience you think do not know anything about the topic you're about to embark on, then maybe you need to make them aware of it somehow and give them the basics. Okay. There's probably 5 people in that crowd that know everything about it, and maybe as much as you do, but they're a minority. You don't need to worry about them. You just worry about the majority who don't really know much about this topic anyway. So having an orientation towards your audience is, if you have an opportunity to find out what the audience knows about something, then that's perfect. So sometimes I do that in a speech. So I was giving a lecture on the Dead Sea Scrolls one day. And I knew that the people in the audience knew about it, because there's different levels of familiarity with the Dead Sea Scrolls discovery. And so I just asked people, how many of you heard about Dead Sea Scrolls? A bunch of hands went up. And I know not everybody raised their hands. Everybody heard about Dead Sea Scrolls. Then the next thing I said, I threw a picture on the screen and I said, look, this is Qumran. This is where they were found. And I said, how many of you have been there? Okay. And so the moment I saw how many hands went up in the audience, I knew that the people actually been to the location of where those things are. Now I know. See, what I did is I gauged my audience. Now I know who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a bunch of people who are that connected to my topic that they actually been there. So they actually know what I'm talking about because they've seen it, they've been there, they've experienced it. So now I'm going to speak to them as the insiders. And so I immediately turned my speech around to address them as the insiders. And I roped them in, sort of say, in that way. So knowing your audience can be to a huge advantage. Sometimes you can poll your audience as you are speaking. Sometimes you don't have that luxury, but it depends really on the speech. It is really helpful if you know what the people you're speaking to know about your subject and what their feelings are, because subject is a subject, but they have feelings about it. They may look at it negatively, they may look at it positively, maybe they don't care. So that means your job is going to change now. Your speech has to make them care, but it has to be an interesting topic to them. Maybe they don't care because they don't know enough about it, or something like that. So that changes. Hopefully that makes sense. But also, whenever we have an audience orientation, we consider a number of factors. We think about, what is the occasion that I'm speaking? What, besides what's the crowd, who's in the crowd, what do they know about my topic? What is the occasion? Is this the kind of occasion where I can make these kinds of speeches, or is this inappropriate to make this kind of speech here? Do I need to make that kind of speech here? You always think about, what is the occasion? What is happening? Is this a trade convention? Well, then it's one kind of speech. Is this a sporting event? Well, then it's a different kind of speech. Is this a political rally? Well, now this is a whole different animal. So depending on where you are, the occasion is going to change. Is this a wedding and you're being asked to give a toast or something like that? That's going to change too. The occasion, the location will change your speech, and that has to play into it. Here's one factor to consider about. If you have a proper audience orientation, you're going to ask yourself, did these people come here to listen to me? Or they have no choice and they're sitting here and I'm speaking in front of them, and you know,
Yeah.
they're not really interested. So like, did they really show up to listen to me, or are they being made to sit here like in a high school auditorium? They all
Yeah, yeah.
they're
When you have to go, it's a must.
It's a must. So you know that's going to change things. And you have to be realistic. Nancy, you have to say, hey, these people are here not to listen to me. They didn't pay money. They didn't show up here on their own free will. They're being forced to listen to me. So I better, think of how they feel about it. And based on that, I'm going to build my speech.
Yeah.
So that's an important factor. So another thing to think about, are we inside or we're outside? Are people comfortable or uncomfortable? Did they just eat lunch? Okay, think about that. One of the biggest mistakes you can possibly make is speak to people while they're having lunch. I hate doing that. I've been asked to deliver, messages to people as they're like eating. They're
Oh, really?
literally
I can.
stuffing their mouths, and I'm talking. I'm like the entertainment, which I hate, and I do not want to speak while they're eating. I'd rather them finish eating than pay attention to me.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like you get the whole attention, but when you are eating, maybe, and if you are hungry, imagine it's like
Yeah.
I'm concentrated eating everything.
So you get the idea. So I've had to do that, and I hate that. How about this? When they're just done eating, I do not like to speak to people when they're just finished eating.
Yeah, horrible too.
It's the worst time possible. So there's been a number of conferences that I spoke at, and I always tell them, do not put me after the lunch break. If you put me after the lunch break, I'm not coming. Basically, that's what I told them. You put me in the morning, first thing, whenever the conference starts, 9, 10, 11. That's it. Do not put me after lunch. If you put me after lunch, I'm not coming. I'm canceling right now. Forget it.
Yeah.
Now, why would I do that? Why do you think I would do that?
Because after lunch you usually like get tired and you want to sleep, and then you fall asleep, and maybe you feel like, okay, we have to hear him about 3 hours. So it's gonna
Exactly.
be more time and more effort
You're
actually.
absolutely right. I'm spending my time and effort listening, and they're not listening. They're going to sleep because their stomachs are full. They're digesting their food. They're tired. They're sleepy. They need a siesta, right? So that's see, there's something in Latin America people understand intuitively that a lot of other countries do not. So that's the reason. So also, if you think about it, having a proper audience orientation is how many are you one of many speakers out there, and what are some of the topics? Who are the people speaking? So who did they hear from? So whenever I'm a speaker at the conference or something like that, I always like to know who is speaking around me. Or if it's a multi-speaker conference that goes on at the same times where you have choices, I always have to say who's speaking at the same time I'm speaking. So there was this one conference I was a part of, and we had 3 speakers at the same time going off in 3 different rooms. So the audience, about 250 people, they have a choice. They're like, do I want to listen to this guy talk about this, or this guy talk about this, or this guy talk about this? And depending on whatever their interest level is, or whoever is speaking, they're going to that particular room. So if you have 3 different rooms, and they just, split up. So I always like to know these kinds of things, because I like to know if I'm competing with someone, because then I'm going to change things around. Or if, against the people are just there, and I'm the only choice they have for the moment. Everything changes. So having an audience orientation is basically being aware of all those issues that going on with your audience. It's putting yourself in the shoes of your listeners. Really, that's the way that you can say it. And every speaker is required to do that if you're going to be effective. Okay. Now, once you kind of thought through some of those ideas, you say, all right, I'm preparing a speech. This is my venue. This is how things stack up. This is my analysis. This is what I think people know. This is what I think people don't know. Then you move on, before you start writing your speeches. Next step is gathering your material. Now that you know what you know, now that you have some understanding of what you're walking into, say, all right, let me put together what I have to say. I have my topic. I have my purpose. I know I'm going to say this This is how I'm going to say it is a little bit different now that I know what I know, but I feel like I'm lacking something. I need some more data. I need some good points. And this is where you move to the next stage. It's called gathering the material. Now, a lot of times when you're speaking on a topic, you already know a lot of what you're going to say. But sometimes you'll find yourself lacking some data, some facts, some material. And it's good to have facts and material, especially if you're making a speech to inform people about something complicated or to expand their minds about something they don't know. It's always good to have some facts. It's always good to have something to back your words up with, essentially, okay? And so you might want to spend a little bit of time doing the research on that topic, even if you know that topic, just to give yourself a little bit of an edge, you know. And that might actually help you to develop some of your points. But just making a few notes here and there and going to some different sources, you know, where you want to draw on this. Maybe you found a great quote by somebody that you didn't know, and now you can use this quote. And you're like, well, this is perfect. It's going to fit into my speech. In fact, I'm going to work that right in. So you can do that. And then after you started gathering your material, getting your data, getting the contents of your speech worked out, you start writing an outline. An outline is basically a structure. Okay, so we've already talked in our first session that then, you know, a basic speech is intro, body, conclusion, right? Introduction, body, conclusion. In introduction, I'm going to tell you what it is that I'm going to say. In the body, I'm actually going to say what I came to say. And in the conclusion, I told you, this is what I said. There you go. It's really that simple. But the pattern and the structure that you develop, introduction can be, you know, short but elaborate, and you have to be succinct. And it's the body that you're going to spend most time working on. And your conclusion is also not going to be super long, but it has to be powerful. It has to be effective. It has to be forceful. So making outlines is a bit of an art. Nobody does it quite the same. There are some good steps and there's some bad steps that you can take. But basically writing out your first structure, introduction, you know, body, conclusion, and then filling in those sections. You know, in the introduction, how you're going to grab people's attention. What is the first line that you're going to start with? You know, that's very important. I'm going to talk about making effective introductions. How you're going to grab people's attention, because they're not paying attention to you. How you're going to grab it, and then how you're going to keep it. You know, that's the idea. And then in your body, what points are you going to make? How are you going to develop it? You're going to make this statement, the thesis statement, this truth, this idea that you want to push, but how does it break down? What are the logical pieces of it, essentially? And then your conclusion has to do a lot with your specific purpose. Whatever your specific purpose is, your conclusion is going to follow. Again, if your specific purpose is to change people's behavior, then you want to concretely solidify in their minds that this is what they now believe. They are sure they can play drums. You know, there is no doubt in their mind, sort of say, I can do it. So that's the idea. That's the conclusion you want to bring them to. You know, that's how you structure the conclusion will largely depend on your specific purpose, essentially. So so that's the next stage. After you put together the outline, you actually will. The best thing to do is to practice, and actually means practice out loud. So imagine that, standing in front of a camera, or, you know, and I recommend camera. You could do the mirror, but I recommend camera, actually. Take your phone, put it in the stand, or get your webcam going, put it in the stand, and deliver your speech. You can have your notes, you can have your outline, whatever cue cards you might want to make for yourself, but do it. Actually run it through and record it so that you can watch it. Because if you do that, you will see all kinds of interesting things about your own speech. And also, you will come up with some ideas how to say things better and more effectively, having done it. I'm going to tell you this. The truth is that every time you do something, second or third time around, it's better.
Yeah, but I have a question because when I was in my country, I used to record myself with my
Mhm.
cell phone, and I always try to improve myself. But I noticed that I always said the different. The first
Yes.
when I recorded the first time, and then I changed everything.
Because
So
you
I
improved. You
yeah,
improved.
yeah, I know that I improved, but sometimes I say, oh, okay, I forgot to say the first thing that I did on the first time, and then I didn't include it in the second time. So I have a lot of a hard time doing that. Like I know that I did something good in the first one, but I cannot like repeat it on the second one because I always change everything.
That's fine. And there's room for both. Let me explain it this way, Nancy. There's when you have a speech to make, you have an outline, right? And if so, when you were doing your improv speaking or whatever you were doing a video of yourself or something like that, the question is, did you have an outline? Did you have a clear outline? Did you know that these are the points I'm going to hit? 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Or were you kind of going off the top of your head, which is why you would forget something important, and then you're like, oh, this is really important. And so you improve it. The idea is that when you have an outline, when you know exactly what you're going to say before you actually open your mouth, you know exactly where you're going. You know the statements you're going to make, you know the points you're going to make, you know the examples or the illustrations you're going to make, and how you're going to develop them. Now, you do not need to write out the whole speech, because guess what? You will never deliver it the same. Even if you write out your speech, you're going to deliver it one time when you practice. Second time you practice, you deliver it differently, and the third time when you actually stand in front of people, you'll deliver it yet another way. You
Yeah,
never deliver it the same exact way, because the feeling changes, your own personal feelings, that what you're experiencing at the moment changes, and that all affects how you do it. When you do it on the camera, it just gives you an idea to say, all right, what am I doing right? What am I not doing right? Did I miss something? Did I forget something? Oh, I should have, done it this way. I should have done it that way. I shouldn't scratch my nose too much or flip my hair or whatever. We all have funny habits that we use sometimes, when we speak in front of people. So little things that you notice about yourself. And the camera is like that. It allows you to have a peek at yourself. What do others see you like? So I am a big proponent of practicing out loud, and the reason why you practice is to get better. That's really is all about. And you want to get that first impression. You say, I really like that. I think I nailed it. I'm gonna hold on to that one. But this part, it was really flat. It was terrible. My introduction was awesome. My conclusion was terrible, kind of thing. Like, all right, I'm gonna work on my conclusion now, and I'm just gonna see how I can do it next time better. So practicing out loud gives you an ability to gather yourself, essentially. It also works off a little bit some nervous energy. Some people are very nervous speaking in front of somebody or being recorded. So sometimes we're not nervous if we're recording ourselves. Other times we are. I've had students speaking in class, sending me their speeches that they did on their own cell phones, and they send it to me, and they are like basically shaking in their boots, speaking, and nobody's even listening to them. They're just recording themselves. And
yeah,
some of them told me, I recorded myself 15 times before I send you this one. So I had that too, and I'm like, why were you so worried? Nobody's listening to you. It's just gonna be me and you. Well, I know you're going to be evaluating me. I said, don't worry about it. You do the best job you can, but it's never going to come out perfect. I mean, the idea in speech making is that you improve yourself every time. So the moment you record it, you always think of, oh, I should have done that better. Ask me this question: how many times I've spoken, and after my speech, I didn't say, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done this. I'm going to give you the answer every single time. There's never been a time that I made a speech and I said, I hit everything 100%, no improvement needed, perfect, done. Never. Never, because I always say I forgot something. I always say I should have done that better. I should have made it shorter. I should have made it longer. I should have cracked that joke and I didn't. Whatever. I'm always going to think of some way to improve whatever I said or did. And that's normal. So this is why you're never going for the perfect. If you think you're going to hit it perfect, that's an illusion. Every time you're going to do it, you're going to do it differently. So just do it, record it, or and consider it as what it is. It's a try one, and when you deliver it live with a real audience, with real people, with people being there, everything's going to change anyway. So to me, live is actually probably the hardest part, than actually recording. But with different people, it's different. So practicing as aloud is very, very helpful. I highly recommend it. And then when you deliver your speech, this is the hard part, okay? Is you're standing in front of an audience, and this is where people get nervous. Now, why do you think we get nervous when we speak in front of people? What are your thoughts? Why do people get nervous?
I think because you want to know what they are thinking about what you're saying.
That's right. The number one reason is, what are they thinking about what I'm saying? Now, a lot of times it's not even what they're thinking about what you're saying. Is, Francisco, a lot of times is, what are they thinking about me? A lot of times we're self-conscious personally, where we may not have confidence because we say, do I look good? Do I sound good? Does this tie look good? Does this shirt look good? Does my hair all messed up? A lot of times we're self-conscious about these things. So it's normal to be nervous. Tell me this. Do you think there's anybody out there who gives a speech who's not nervous, even just a little bit?
No, I think everybody, it's not how nervous you are, it's how you control it.
That's right. You're absolutely right. It's not how nervous you are, it's how you control it. It's what you do with that nervousness. How do you channel it? That's absolutely right. So every single speaker out there, and I don't care how experienced you are or how inexperienced you are, it doesn't really make a difference. You could be a movie star, okay? And you're still going to be nervous. Some people are more confident and they will still feel nervous energy. It never really goes away. You can be used to speaking audience of 20 or 20,000 and you'll still be nervous. If you've spoken to 20,000, you think speaking to a group of 20 is nothing, you'll be just as nervous speaking to a group of 20 as 20,000. The truth is that sometimes it never goes away. It's what you said exactly, Francisco. What do you do with it? How do you control it? How do you manage your nervous energy? There's a little bit of anxiety that happens with all of us, and that's okay. I think it's human. I think it's just normal to all of us. So there's some good advices that let's see that the authors will give us. And they say this: realize that tension and nervousness is normal. So that's good. So hey, you're not weird. You're okay. Everyone, it's normal to feel this way. Focus on your ideas. Now, this is example. Exactly. We are, a lot of times we're thinking about what other people are thinking. And that is the worst thing to do when you're delivering a speech, because the singular thing that you need to consider and think about is not what they're thinking, but what it is that you want to say. What they're thinking is irrelevant, essentially, because how is what they're thinking going to change what you're already saying? You already came prepared. You practiced. You got your points. You're going to nail it. Everything's going to be okay. Do you need to follow the feedback? Yes, but not what they're thinking, essentially. Do they like it? Do they not like it? You do gauge the audience to a degree, but you do not allow that to deter you from the speech you already prepared. You have already thought of possibilities. You have already thought of some objections, of the things that people might not like about what you have to say or might disagree about. And you have already pre-imagined some of that disagreement or dislike. And you already addressed it in your speech, so you don't need to worry about it, essentially. So there's technique about doing that, about thinking what your audience is going to be thinking and helping them to move in the different direction, or moving them exactly along the direction of their thinking, because you already know what they're thinking, so you don't need to worry about it. Looking at your listeners, making eye contact is very important. That actually helps you relax, because you're speaking to people. You're speaking to real, breathing, living human beings, just like you are. You got to think of them as your friends. You got to think of them as your colleagues, people that you have a relationship with, and not some, just masses or audience out there. And you might want to focus on some people. That's a good way of doing it. Focusing your eyes on one person in the audience for about 15 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, and then moving to another person. And I'll tell you my technique. My technique is to find about 5 to 7 good-looking people, okay, that I like in the audience, that I connect with. And I'm moving between those people as I speak. I just go back and forth, back and forth. Because if you stare at the same person for too long, that's bad. It's not good at all. Because then they feel uncomfortable, and you realize that you focused too much on something. So moving your gaze is actually helpful. But you look at them as your friends. So make several imaginary friends in the audience and talk to them like you're talking to your friends on a couch. And all of a sudden, you're not as nervous, because you just narrowed down your audience to a much smaller group. And you can't focus on everybody, so you just focus on a few. The ones that make you feel comfortable, the ones that look good to you, and so the ones that you find appealing and welcoming and friendly. So remember to breathe is a good advice. A lot of times when people get in front of the audiences, they forget to breathe. They speak too much and too fast. They do not take pauses, okay? And that's important, actually. Breathing as a technique helps you relax. It allows you to stay in control. Your body functions actually work properly when you breathe properly. Not getting enough oxygen, hyperventilating, you might just pass out. Seriously. Yeah, some people just get so nervous they don't breathe, they tense up, and that causes you not to be able to inhale enough air and things like that. So I've seen people actually pass out in front of audiences, which is very, it's terrible. I feel terrible for them, but it's very embarrassing. But that does happen. So that does happen. People get so uptight. Relaxing your body. There's a number of techniques that I'll talk about. Actually, in the next chapter talks about apprehension, and I'll talk more about speaking anxiety and apprehension that people experience, and some of the techniques of how you do it. But relaxing your body is very important when you speak. You don't want to be too relaxed. You want to hold a particular posture. You want to look good. Stand up straight. Don't slouch your shoulders. Kind of an idea. Don't lean on a podium. Don't lay on it. You want to be relaxed, but you don't want to be too relaxed. You want your muscles to be relaxed. That's one thing you do not want to do. You do not want to clench your fists. Okay. You don't want to lock your arms. Things like that. You want to unlock. I always tell people, open fists, open arms. That makes you inviting. That makes you relaxed. When you tighten up, people can feel the tension, and that translates to the audience in that negative way. So, and then practicing and doing that, you get more comfortable, you get more confident, you get more at home in front of people if you do that a lot. So some people are more at home in front of a live crowd, other people are more at home in front of the camera. It really depends. But I personally like live audiences. So most of the time that I speak, I prefer not to tape anything, not to record anything, but actually do it live in front of other people. So that's good stuff. That's good advices in the chapter. That pretty much brings us to the end of the chapter where we needed to be. Any questions that you guys have? Any thoughts? Any ideas? This is a fairly simple chapter. It gives us some good advice, and the main thing is that kind of understanding the purposes, the general purpose, and the specific purpose, and then how out of that flows your central idea, and out of your central idea, your outline basically works its way, and everything else builds on those bones. Essentially, that's your backbone. So, any questions? Any thoughts?
I think the most important delivering speech tip the the chart says is the one that talk about you need to see the audience like your friends.
Hmm.
One time one time I had to speak to a lot of people. I just imagine that like I was talking like one person or two, but they were friend of mine, so it was
Right.
a lot easier to me.
Right. Exactly. It is a very good technique, and there's a number of techniques there. The truth is that different people struggle with different aspects of speech giving. One of the aspects that most people struggle with is when your mind wanders. You're given a speech and your mind is somewhere else. Like you talked about, you're worried about what they're thinking. Well, if you can focus, and that's why having a very clear outline, knowing exactly what you're going to say before you say it, uh, it allows you to have a really good, smooth, well thought out speech. And yeah, there will be differences, there'll be variances, to it, but that helps a lot. Good. All right, Nancy. So, what do you think? You were telling me about your recording yourself and having experiences with that.
Yeah.
Do you like live, or do you like recording stuff?
No, I think that I am better like just like for example, if now you tell me, hey Nancy, go and do a speech, is better because if you tell me in advance, I'm gonna get nervous during the whole week. I'm like, okay, just do it now, and then I'm gonna brainstorm, and I'm gonna do something quickly, and then I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna be free, and I'm gonna be relaxed and everything. But if I have to think too much, I think that I'm very anxious.
Okay.
So I always try to do, or I always try that everything goes perfect or almost perfect.
Of course.
So I think I overthink a lot.
You overthink. You overthink. That's normal. People, you're not alone with that. So let me ask you a question. Have you done this with an outline?
No, no.
Okay.
I'm just like I prefer to do all like free.
Yes,
I don't know.
freestyle. No, no, I
It's
get it.
like because I think that I have like a lot of ideas. I always it's not difficult for me to write or to speak about something, any topic. I think that I have like an open mind, and even if it's a topic that I don't have enough information, maybe I just try something.
You make it up as you go along.
Yeah, yeah. Even if it's wrong, but but yeah.
That's fine. That's funny. No, I understand. I want you to try something, okay? And I think this is where you can grow, Nancy, and that is using an outline, okay? Not saying you have to write out the whole speech, but your main points. Let's say
Yeah, yeah. I think
you're gonna
that's
make. Let's say you're gonna make a speech. Let's say you have 5 to 10 minutes, whatever, 8 minutes. Let's say that way. I want you to think of your main points, and I want you to think of your examples, and I want you to think of your segues from one to the other, to the other, to the other. Now, if you think of it that way, I know you like to freestyle, and that's
yeah,
fine, and that's fine. I like to freestyle too. But when I have a very concrete information and I have limited time and I
yeah,
need to get it in, I like to organize myself
yeah,
and just say, these are the points I'm going to hit. I'm going to tell them 1, 2, 3. And when I say 1, I'm going to use this example. When I say 2, I'm going to use this data. And when I say 3, I'm going to use that illustration. And
yeah,
then I'm done and I'm ready for a conclusion. And everything else becomes fill in the gaps. I still feel free to fill in the gaps because the gaps are not filled in by me. It's not like I wrote the entire speech. I just wrote an outline. So I
yeah,
know what I'm going to say, but how I'm going to say it, it's going to be different. I think that will help you a lot.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
if
think
you if
definitely.
you start utilizing an outline because you want to be free, but outline does not bind you. Outline just provides structure. You're saying, okay, I'm free within these goals that I've set for myself to hit.
Yeah, and I think also sometimes there's a lot of topics that has a lot of let's say um, subtopics, let's say.
Yeah,
So you have to choose at least two or three, the most important ones, because if you're gonna talk about something, for example, persuasive, you have to to take the ones that are more important, or the ones that you think that are gonna persuade it most.
Yeah.
So
So you have to narrow it down. This is another thing with freestylers like yourself. You like to freestyle, you like to free think, free talk, which is fine. But a lot of times, narrowing things down, because you have a big topic, you have a big subject, and you can talk about it for hours, essentially. Just keep coming up with different ideas,
yeah.
and that's okay. But let's say you do have a limited time, and you got to get that objective in of saying what you wanted to say. So then narrowing down your topic into saying, I'm going to limit myself. If I'm going to talk about food, and guess what? I'm not going to talk about Italian food. I'm not going to talk about Chinese food.
Yeah.
I'm only going to talk about Latin American food. And not Latin American food, I'm only going to talk about this type. And in fact, I'm only going to talk about this particular variety. Let's say I'm only going to talk about soups or something like that.
Yeah, because that's a lot.
Because you just keep narrowing down, and you're going to say, and I'm going to talk about spices used in soup or something like that. And you just keep narrowing down, because you can't talk about soups because it's way too much. So you're just going to keep narrowing down, and getting there.
Yeah.
All right. Maureen, you joined us towards the end of the class.
Hello, sir.
Hey, what's going on?
Sir, I was just busy with the doctor's appointment.
Okay, I understand. Well, just wanted to let you know that we're kind of wrapping up the class right now. So
oh, I'm so sorry.
We get started at 3:30, and we roll through, and towards 5:30, 6 o'clock, we'd like to wrap it up. But I'm glad you joined us. But you kind of missed it, so you're gonna have to watch it in recording. So good news is I recorded it for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll post the recording on the lesson plans in your portal. So when you go like week 2, just click on lessons week 2, and you'll see it in there. Once the videos gets done, I'll put them in there. I'll put them on YouTube. Put them in there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So you can have it. All right, awesome. So Nancy, so that's just something to think about. We always looking to improve ourselves, and how this class is going to help us, how this textbook is going to help us. So whether it's dealing with some of the issues of apprehension or nervousness or anxiety or anything like that, or having a very clear structure. Maybe you're not struggling with those aspects, but you're struggling with just kind of being all over the place, and say, how can I gather my thoughts? How can I be surgical delivery, kind of like precise, boom,
Yeah, I think that everything that it's organized, it's better always.
Yeah, it does. It sounds really good. It's just what it is, Nancy. If it's effective, what is your goal? If your goal is just to have a conversation with your friends, then hey, you don't really need to be organized.
Yeah, of course.
You just need to chat them up. You just need to have a good time, But if you're trying to, on a limited time, sort of say limited budget, limited time, you're going to do that, then you have an objective to achieve. You want to hit those points. And so a lot of times, we have limited opportunities. And so knowing exactly what you're going to say and quickly and doing it effectively, sometimes is just worth it. It's just worth it. So this is the skill that I want you guys to develop, is to kind of short speeches, quick speeches, to the point, and very organized. And structure. Once you figure out the structure, it's like the skeleton. Think about it. Once you figure out where things grow from, you can variate. You can move it around. You can twist it. You can shape it. But that's the idea. All right. So this was a good chapter. This was fun. Keep reading. Your assignment for next week is the same. Read chapter 3. Don't forget about chapter 1 and 2, but read chapter 3. Chapter 3 is all about coping with anxiety and sort of say what happens within our bodies, and we're going to talk about that as we deliver speeches. And so looking forward, as you guys are reading, just you can always glance at the syllabus. So next week we're going to talk about coping with anxiety, and week number 4 we're going to talk about critical listening, and that's when you're actually going to have a quiz. So you're going to have quiz on first 4 chapters, which I'll put for you online and open it up on that Monday, so you'll be able to take it. And then week number 5, we are continuing through our chapters. We're going to look at understanding audiences, kind of more of an audience analysis type chapter, and you're going to have an exercise. And your exercise is going to be on critical listening. I'm actually going to have you do listen to a speech, analyze the speech, and give me some feedback on what you heard. So this will give me an idea of how well you listen, how well you practice those critical listening skills, which is going to be really good. So, and I promise I'll give you a good speech that, you know, it's not going to be all terrible one, you know. I can give you a really terrible one just for fun, you know, because there's some speeches out there just like awful. Like, this is the worst speech I've ever heard. It has no structure. It has, you know, the speaker himself does not know where they're going with it. So kind of an idea. And I give you those too. But I promise I'll give you a good one. So when you are able to do the exercise, it'll be like, you know, you'll be able to recognize things. You'll be able to see the techniques that you're learning about. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of a forecast what we're going to do in the next upcoming week. So just keep reading, keep studying. Let's take this journey along, and I'll see you guys next week, and we'll continue this conversation. All right?
We see you.
Do well in all your other classes. Stay safe. All right? God bless. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.